Okay, so here's some ways that as an owner you can start to get this to happen. You can start to standardize. You can start to demand maximizing use of space. We've given you some tools to figure that out. You can asset evaluation and assessments. That's if you have existing properties. You can take a look at how do you use your existing properties, so on and so forth. Chargeback processes are a little more sophisticated. What is a chargeback process? Anybody know? It's just kind of it's a corporate buzzword right now. What is it? What do you think it would be? Space costs money. Doesn't, and then you have the other culture that says doesn't cost any money. So the way to drive it home is to, if you're a business within a business, that's the concept, and you would normally, even though I own the space, I'm going to charge you for use of that space, because if we close down the business, you'd have to go across the street and find somebody to lease from. So we're going to make this a real business decision. We're going to charge you for your space, okay? And that's within a company. Okay?
Departments within a company.
What's that?
Talking about like different lines of business within
Yeah.
a company.
Yeah. So if you're within Avnet, this company would pay so much a square foot, and this part of that company, the programmers would pay so much a square foot, the other function would pay so much a square foot, and then that's paid for through their services for other people. Okay? So they all charge. And so that's how you can bring space. You get them to feel like they're in their own business. How do you figure out what's best for own versus lease?
Maybe the purpose of the building,
What?
the purpose of the facility, if it's like a government facility versus like a short-term business.
Okay. Why would it pan out that one would be better than another?
Just because I remember you saying if it's a government-owned facility, then you want to stay where you're at for a long period of time so that people know your location versus moving around.
Okay, you got a big part of what we're really trying to get across, but you didn't get a core value.
If you're gonna lease the space, you don't want to make a whole bunch of changes to it.
Okay, you're on the same track. I mean, my core value is I usually boil everything down to that as much as I can. So you just gave me this. Okay? So what you kind of told me, and I'm putting it in my words, not yours, government is got 40 years in their mind, and short-term business may have 1 year. Right? So why is lease versus government different?
Because you get more value out of your property if you stay there longer, or if you own it, versus leasing it. Because if you lease it, you're only there for a year, you get more value than if you own it for a year.
Okay? And so if we were to do, this is what I'm kind of looking for, if we did a life cycle cost analysis on the lease versus own, and we took the government approach of 40 years, and we did it over a 40-year cycle, we can build a pretty high-quality piece of that would last that long and be very, very efficient for life cycle costing. The guy that's only in business for 1 year, if we did the same kind of thing, we couldn't get it to have any kind of return on the investment, okay, in a life cycle analysis in 1 year if you were to buy the building. Do you get that, Tweet?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's really fairly important, because he's not going to have a return on investment. this government has plenty of time, so can really spend and have a really pretty high quality product. This guy, the only way he gets it is somebody amortizes over 30 years that initial investment. So you're leasing, and what that investor is thinking is 30 years, okay? 30 years, he'll have a series of people that are leasing from him. So he's still doing a little bit of the same kind of thing, but probably trying to make it more profitable. Okay, preventative versus reactive. What are we into there? What does that mean?
Obviously, it's pre-planning with your capital renewal costs versus when something breaks down, then you try and fix it, take out loans, put yourself in debt.
Okay, you're just really on a roll today. Okay, I just want to hit this a little bit. What are ways that we can bring out the best in our assets? It's really this whole life cycle cost thing. I keep on coming back to it. But it is doing that up front if you're an owner. If you're a contractor, it's about stimulating the owner to think about that up front. Okay? You want the lowest evaluated life cycle cost for a product. So you don't want necessarily the highest cost. You want over the life of however you're saying you're going to own the building, you want that to be incrementally the best cost. So don't pick the most expensive. So when do you pick this?
At the beginning.
Why? Okay, so I'm going to build a building. I think this is an important thing. I mean, I can see, I mean, I think you have to all understand, I think you guys are probably some of the smartest people on this campus. And you're in the building industry, and you're not quite getting some of the real significant points that I think are really important in our industry. Okay? We have an industry that does this. We design. Oh, no, let's do this. We go through schematic. You guys know what that is, right? We go DD, right? We go through CDs, right? And of course, we decide right in here that we have a problem with it costing too much. We brought the contractor in, he priced it out and can't afford it. So we have this process called VE. Right? What does VE stand for? Okay. When should you be doing VE? Yeah, this is that. Right? It is. You can't get any dumber. But I think it should be done here or before. Okay, so how do we do that? Okay, you get everybody involved in the beginning. And so who is everybody? Okay, let's just say we do get the contractor. How often is that? Maybe 30%, okay? So the contractor becomes our savior. Who else do we get involved? Okay. Say AE. Yeah, that's why I say AE. Okay. I use this terminology loosely, and you guys are probably not getting it sometimes, okay? So I apologize. It's not meant to be on purpose. Owner. Okay.
Operators, who are maintaining.
Okay. CMs. What kind of consultants?
Well, if you got a special building like a hospital, you're gonna want hospital specialists.
Okay, so special,
Like any other vendor?
okay. So I'm going to poke a whole bunch of holes in this. Okay? All right. We're really not going down the space panning track totally. We're sidetracked, but I'm okay with that. Okay, so acknowledging that. Out of this whole thing, I mean, what we're trying to do is value engineering. We all agree with that, right? So you have to have dollars. You have to have scope defined, right, in quantity and quality. And you also have to have some scope defined, yeah, in quantity and quality. And then we also have to have schedule, right? Okay. Everybody agree with that? So this guy does what? What value does he add to the team?
He sees if the project is realistic.
Based on what?
Past history.
Is he there?
Probably schedule.
Okay.
Schedule and scope both.
Cost.
Cost. What else? That it? What's he used for?
Scope.
Scope in what?
Scope of the project.
You have Q and Q. Is he both for both of those?
Quality.
Quality and quality. Quantity and quality, I'm sorry. Huh?
I would say quality.
Okay.
When planning a project, I understand quality. Where does quantity come in for building a project? I don't understand.
Okay. Who establishes the quantity of product so you can estimate it? How do you estimate the cost? First thing you're going to want is some kind of unit cost, and you're going to want the unit. Okay, so I can give you, oh, it's $10 a square foot. Okay, well, how many square feet? Or it's $50 a linear foot. Okay, how many linear feet? Who establishes that? How can you come up with cost without quantity? And then we were talking a minute ago about quality. Who establishes quality? Because I can buy a hose bib that costs $300 and I can buy one that costs $10. Right?
Someone has to define the quality of it.
Who does that?
That is architect.
Architect does. Okay. So the architect establishes the quality. Okay. Who establishes the quantity?
Owner.
Owner. Okay.
User, I would say.
So do we need the rest of this?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Who's the user establish?
The purpose.
In scope, in quantity or quality?
Quality.
Quality of
Quality. Operator.
they need both.
Huh?
Quality and quantity. Because their cost depends on that.
Okay. Instruction managers.
Schedule and budget. Budget or cost, dollar amount.
And cost?
Yep.
Okay. Specialty consultant does what?
Quality.
Does what?
Quality of the product, what you should provide.
Okay. And we all do this prior to starting schematic? Huh?
We should, but we don't.
I don't know if all those people want to sit through these meetings,
How many meetings are we going to have, James?
however many the owner decides.
Okay. This is an industry problem. I mean, if you guys really believe in what you're saying, and frankly, I believe it, okay? And I think James is right. How do you get all these people together? Because it's not just one. It's not just a user. It's like a high quality, a big part of the user. And one of the problems if you have a bunch of meeting is you may start out with the CEO, and then you'll end up with the secretary if you get much more than 1 or 2 meetings. And secretary is probably not going to be a real huge quality adder to scope and quality, right? I'm not trying to downgrade the secretary. Right? Okay, so how do we solve this problem? One way that I would suggest, okay, if I'm the facility manager who is not up here, okay, I would suggest that I put together a plan before any of these idiots get in my business. Okay? So if I did this, I assembled my operators, okay, that started to establish the quality I want in my chillers, the quality that I want in my air handlers. Okay? Guess what? I probably get that, but I have to tell them what is the brand, okay? What type of device is it going to be? Copper, galvanized, iron? When I want to establish what I want, because when those idiots leave my life and I have to maintain it, I want something I can maintain that isn't going to go away in 2 years. Guess what? I don't have an intrinsic trust in this guy, this guy, this guy, or that guy. I don't trust any of them because they've all screwed me. I'm talking as the owner. This guy doesn't. This guy thinks he has a bunch of experience and he hasn't maintained a building in his life.
Is that part of the reason too why these vendors and contractors aren't brought on early enough? Because
It isn't, because the owner, I'll get it, if you don't mind, would you ask that question in just a minute? Okay, because I'll get back to it, because I think one of the problems we got is this guy has inherited a lot of buildings that have all gone astray. And he doesn't want that anymore. So what's his best defense? His best defense is creating value engineering and life cycle costs before any of these guys get close to his projects. Okay? How do you do that? You assemble the team, and that's exactly right. You can gain a little bit of knowledge from the architect, the owner. You can gain a little bit of knowledge, but you do this before you even start a building, well in advance. Okay? All right, so I am going to establish a design criteria manual that ties the architect down to something that I can have good, usable space planning that's done in my building. Okay? I'm going to tell him what universal design is, so if he tries to reinvent another way to develop a circulation path that's in a U shape, okay, or a zigzag, okay, that's not going to work in my buildings, and I'm going to tell him in the design manual. If I've got details that work for me and I know ones that don't, I'm going to detail them out before I get the architect and engineer on my job. So my operators are telling them what has to happen in the design. Now, is that always correct? Probably not. But the engineer needs to come back and tell me why. Okay? Construction specifications. I want my workers, my operators, all to work from construction specifications, because if the contractor is going to build that way, I want to maintain that way. So I want standard specifications in a way that allows the industry and my workers to work in concert, not against each other. So I go through all of this so that I can value engineer before any of these guys touch my job. And if I can, and if I'm an architect and I understand the whole cycle, you should be able to say, in this day and age, if you have a facility manager standards, and you're reasonable in costs, and we're saying that maybe the CM is, and you've seen where you can create a template, a cost estimating template that reflects those standards. All you need is quantity. Because if you standardize in specs, you have quality established. Okay? And if you've established quality, you are lacking quantity. Everybody agree? You're also lacking schedule, which has some impact on cost, but not a whole bunch necessarily. Okay, so if we have quality established by the standard specs that this guy is putting together, how do we get quantity? Okay, we've, through benchmarking, have a series of categories we've given you that start to establish the quantity. I can tell you that I can sit down right now with a CEO, and I'm not necessarily, I am this guy, but I don't think any other, so I wouldn't say you go after an architect, because there are not many, I don't think. But I have shared with you ways, and you need to mature them, but I can sit down with 3 people from an owner organization, and if he can describe to me a little bit of what he's wanting, I'll ask him a few key questions. And most of the questions are based on quality, typically of where does he want to be. And I can tell you by just a few words, I can tell him, is he going to be in my medium spec, my high quality spec, or low quality spec. And if he's in my medium, I know which cost estimate template to bring with me. I sit down, I ask him a few questions. If he tells me a little bit about how many people he's got, I can tell him the acreage he needs, I can tell him the parking he needs, I can tell him the building size he needs, and I haven't done any design work at all. I ask him a few more questions, I can tell you how big your toilet is, how big it's going to be. All of that brings in unit costs, and at the end of the meeting, I can tell him how much it's going to cost. The big questions are FF&E, security, because nobody takes those into account. Nobody develops unit costs around those. So we've spent more time on that. Yes?